Before we begin, thank you very much to Freedom Rider, or Free Dome Rider. There's an E thrown in there, I'm not sure why. For joining the Patreon campaign over at patreon.com/TJOmega. Since you guys got me over the threshold for another month, we are officially doing Season 2 and 3 of Beast Wars. Next month would be Beast Machines. If we hit that goal, we're not very far off. So if you want to see that happen, consider pitching a buck or two in. It's all it really takes, and I appreciate it greatly. So, today's video, I got to thinking about some of the old Botcon sets that Fun Publications put out, and it's been a long-standing opinion of mine that they start off so good and decline so quickly, and it feels like, to me, one of the big reasons why Botcon began to fail was because the toys took such a decline in not only inspiration, but overall quality. Everyone remembers the picture of the Tigatron with a flat head. So, in this case, I wanted to go over there's so many things we can cover about why Botcon failed, and why the new Botcon is not one you should be bothering with at all. But we're going to save that for another day. For now, I'm just going to go over the theme sets that they produced, all the different box sets and themes that they went through year after year. And we're not going to judge individual toys. We're not going to go through every single toy. It's actually hard for me to find photos of like a consistent photo of like every toy every year. So we're just going to go with overall themes. So as you see right here, we have Descent into Evil. That's the 2005 set. That was the very first time Fun Publications put out like a big box set of toys. Now, this one in particular really only has one goal, which is to make a Deathsaurus toy for America. Reuse the RID Megatron mold that was super popular in order to do it, which makes sense. I mean, it's a dragon. It only turned it into a dragon, but also the mold is just incredibly popular, and it was only reused one time. So ripe for retooling and repackaging as a different character. I mean, it's a cool idea. It is a cool idea. I believe the retooled head took out the bat mode, but there's still plenty of other modes that mold is capable of, so not a huge deal in the long run. There's a few original characters in there. We have our first example of a Ricochet which was a jet. It's a random cyber jet. It's a non-existent character, mostly there to fill up the box. Chromia got her first toy. That's fun. We have the Virulent Clones, which are Dirge and Skywarp, but that's mostly just existing trademark. No. The real appeal to this set for me, at least, and I think for a lot of people, was seeing Ironhide and Ratchet again. Remember, this was 2005. Classics is just a gleam in someone's eye at Hasbro, and there was no Ironhide or Ratchet on the market, at least not in G1 style, until 2008. So this was the first time we got to see the classic characters return, and using that toe line mold from Energon, which was an intentional homage to how the original Ironhide and Ratchet toys functioned, is a really brilliant call. I think that was the most popular figures from that set, at least from what I viewed. And really, this didn't have to do too much except establish the actual like direction of Botcon going forward. Obviously, there's not a whole lot of cohesion to the set. It's just, it establishes the direction. The next year definitely had a much stronger theme. This was Dawn of Futures Past. I love this set. Of all the Botcon sets I wish I could have gotten in on when it was brand new and not outrageously expensive, it's this set because I think it is sheer genius. I think this is the smartest set they ever came up with. The Beast Wars cast before they came to prehistoric Earth, before they had beast modes, and using Transformer Cybertron figures, so just about all of them had some kind of futuristic spin or edge to them. Absolutely brilliant. There is one figure in this set I've always taken issue with, which is the Waspinator figure. They picked one of these. They picked one of the G2 / Machine Wars molds because the head already looked kind of like Waspinator, so they didn't have to sculpt a new head for it. I'm always going to say Waspinator should be a helicopter, not a jet, because that properly mimics an insect flying, etc., etc. And also we had Cybertron Buzzsaw just sitting there going, what am I to you? See, honestly, I think that a straight repaint of that would have been fine too. I mean, it is still technically Waspinator's head. It's just not the head he's known for. But this set was brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. I love Primal using Crumple Zone, so he still has some kind of ape proportion to him. Also, I think this set has the distinction of having the most expensive Botcon toy, outside of maybe like the originals, because it had Megatron out of Cybertron Defense Red Alert, and it's an outrageously expensive figure. Again, this whole set was brilliant, and God, I wish I had the Dinobot. That's the only one I ever managed to get, and I sold it off because when am I ever going to get the chance to own the rest? But this, I think, is genius, and I really think that with all the futuristic vehicles in Siege, I would love to see Hasbro revisit this concept. I think they could do some absolutely awesome homages with the existing toys. Moving on. Games of Deception is another vehicle for an intention. So, okay, so, but, Dreadwing, meh, that's a fill-in. Bug Bite, cool that we actually got a Bug Bite, but also it is still just kind of fill-in. No, the whole point of this set was to release the extra 3 Seekers that Classics did not. There's some controversy to this because Botcon does put in their like exclusive thing is like the exclusives we offer will never be offered at retail level. They will only be available here, which technically on Dirge and Thrust is correct because they use different wing sculpts than the eventual retail releases did. Thundercracker, the only difference is deco, and only slight changes to the deco. So that makes it a little bit of a gray area that a lot were upset with. This is a set that was great in the day because it was the only way to get all 6 of your Seekers, but once those extra Seekers had been released and were easy to get, the price on this one kind of plummeted. It's not nearly the Mammoth set. It used to be the most expensive set you could get. Not the case anymore. This one, theme-wise, is kind of weak. Like I said, it's mostly just a vehicle to get those 3 jets out. But just as, like, establishing Bug Bite as a character, I think is a cool thing. And just having this, like, basically a squadron of jets at his command, I think kind of works for him. Still, the whole point of this was, I could go on with the I could go on with all the extra figures that came out as well, the souvenir sets, but really the only thing we talk about here are the extra Seekers, and there's only so far we can go with that, so it's kind of a weak theme overall. Here's another one that's crazy expensive now. Shattered Glass is an old sci-fi trope. The whole point of Shattered Glass is a play on Broken Mirror, which is the Star Trek version of the alternate parallel universe where good is evil, evil is good, black is white, up is down, short is long, and all the other things in that Weird Al song, and I'm quoting now. This, again, is a great set idea. I do like the idea of not just inverting the colors, which would be too easy, but taking inspiration from their counterpart characters to create their color schemes. Cybertron Starscream, done up in Jetfire colors, plays off of Starscream and Jetfire's relationship in the original cartoon, as well as just their parallels of being like the air commanders of their respective sides. Some of the stuff I loved. It's more than that. That became like the common thing to do with Shattered Glass. You can see like Grimlock here, done in Trypticon colors. Cool. There's other concepts. The Jazz, I think, is super weak. I do think using Crosswise and making him Jazz, that's a good idea. Just making him kind of a G2 style Jazz and calling that Shattered Glass, weak. Weak. I think you could have done better there. What I loved is Goldbug because it's not. It is a glow up of Bumblebee, but it is giving him because it's using that Cybertron hotshot mold instead of something like squat and more Bumblebee-esque. It's giving him a warrior physique, and it's changing it's more like an attitude change. I feel like that comes across as like an evil Goldbug better than say you know, that evil Jazz especially, or even that good Starscream. Just because it's such a different tone for a Bumblebee. This was after the live action movies, so we had Warrior Bumblebee, but not this kind of Warrior Bumblebee. To this day, that Goldbug is my most desired Botcon toy. One of the most desired toys I have in my mind right now. One of my holy grails, just because it's one of my favorite molds. I think it looks absolutely gorgeous in those colors, and it never comes up for sale on its own. And the box set is ridiculously expensive. Shattered Glass became a theme for Botcon. It became something they would revisit many, many times over. Wings of Honor is an interesting idea that's a little bit confused. They used a lot more original characters in this, with Landshark and Flak especially being like the two big pieces in the box set, when they're actually characters you never heard of, and they're just their own custom creations, which I never really liked. You know, there's so much untapped potential in Transformers. I don't know why you'd even have run out of ideas and have to start coming up with original stuff. The whole point here was to establish Cup in his youth, using the Cybertron Red Alert mold. Not a bad choice. It's an interesting mix of Cybertron and Energon figures as well. So not too confused aesthetic wise. We got a very interesting Thunderclash. Scourge, I think, is the weird one out, because if we're going into like Cup when he was a young soldier, it would make sense to use characters that you didn't see anymore, because Cup is supposed to be the old veteran that survived all the wars. So we're seeing a cast of characters who didn't survive those wars. But throwing Scourge in there, well, using Scourge with the Cybertron Sideways mold, that makes sense. That works. But it doesn't work in the story concept. So it's G1 adjacent is what it is. It doesn't really tell a story. It's just kind of close to it. I think the way they played it off was that Cup is telling a story, and Scourge exists in modern times trying to disrupt it, and then in the past, Cup is dealing with all these other characters. I think that's how I remember it. I think this one was notable because it gave us a troop builder, which was the sweeps. Like, a little bit different color. A little bit different color than Scourge there. So you had an actual set of sweeps for the first time. That would become common later on, of course. But for now, again, Botcon did things, or at least I thought Botcon was at its strongest when it did things that fans really wanted but never got to do before. And that is chief among them. G2 Redux, the only Botcon set I ever actually owned, because it's the only Botcon I ever got to go to. The only thing I'm missing from this is the custom class figure, which I believe was... Oh, it was G2 Sideswipe. Yeah. Which ironically, if you really think about it, is the only G2 toy in the entire set. Just to look at the box set here, Pyro and Clench are Euro G1. They were never released in Generation 2 in America. And I believe they did cross over. They did get released in G2 packaging with different names. But still, the initial release of the characters, late G1, not G2. You could argue that Street Star and Breakdown are also not G2 because they were designed for Generation 2 but not released in Generation 2. Breakdown is, of course, a Botcon toy, because that's how they released G2 Breakdown, was through Botcon. And Street Star, G2 Streetwise, was never released. So it was a concept for G2, but it was never actually released for G2. And then you look into all the extra exclusives from that year. You had like Turbo Master, okay, so another Euro G1. You had Sharkticons from actual G1, like not even like close to G2. Skybite there in the picture, I think goes without saying, is definitely not G2. This is again where I feel like Skybite was used because it's a popular character and it gives them an excuse to make Sharkticons out of the Energon mold. But it doesn't fit in with the theme. The theme itself here is kind of falling apart. Overall, I like the set. Of course I like the set. It's the set I own. But I do think there was a little bit too much of a disconnect. Another one that would have been G2 would have been Cindersaur, made out of the deluxe Cybertron Megatron. But the issue there is they picked one that. So there's a weird thing where Euro G1 or in Europe they re-released those like spark monsters. I can't remember the name of them offhand. Firecons. They re-released those, but they skipped one. So the Cindersaur they made for this set was supposed to fill the gap. Aesthetically, not even close, but hey, I like the idea. So I'll give them credit for that. But still, you can start to see where the sets are kind of falling apart here. This one is definitely nice and united. So they had to use animated molds at some point because there were 3 years worth of animated toys. I believe at the time, Botcon was saying the toys were so characterful that it was really hard to reuse them. I've pitched ideas on this channel before where that can be averted, but the idea they came up with was the Stunticon job. With Derek Wyatt helping out to pick the molds and the designs, we actually got a set of Stunticon characters in animated form, as well as a bunch of other animated characters in the souvenir sets that I thought were really, really cool. This is a super solid, super idea. Nice unified pattern. Getting all the Stunticons in animated form right in one box, I think, is brilliant. That alone right there is great. And they picked nice molds for it. I like all 5 of the molds that they picked, because or was animated. It had great molds to begin with. And I do like that they added personality. Even ones that are just straight repaints, they added some nice personality to them. This is a fantastic set. This, I think, in my mind, this is the last great Botcon set. This is the one I think of where, like, remember when it was good? Yeah. This is the last time it was good. Here on out, I think we have some issues. So next up is Shattered Glass Invasion. They re-dipped into the Shattered Glass pool. The problem with this set is, one, I don't think the choices are as inspired as previous ones. It just feels like there's a feeling of things being tacked on. We do have like, so so like right there in the center, you can already see that they've taken Armada Sideswipe and given it to, oh god, I can't even remember which one it was. Ugh. But it was like Shattered Glass Tread Shot or something, and it doesn't work. But yeah, but you can see like, okay, so we've got a Red Trax. Okay, we've got Ratchet, Shattered Glass Ratchet is fine. Oh no, Shattered Glass Soundwave. Excuse me, that's actually fine. They actually made like a little headband for him, so he actually looked the way he was intended. Overlord, I wasn't a fan of. I'm not a fan of that mold in general. I feel like the aesthetic is confusing because there's big round parts like an animated figure, but also like skeletal, scrawny, kibbly parts like a movie toy, and then you throw a G1 head onto it as well. That I think wasn't even the right size. You also had Metal Hawk here, and the Metal Hawk was like the subject of a lot of fun being had because they sculpted in a human face on the full robot toy to give it like the look of the Pretender shell, and it looked so weird. It looked so weird and awkward. I think everyone made fun of that figure. But the idea here was Shattered Glass invading actual like G1 territory. And okay, fine. That's not a terrible idea, but you are hitting the same idea as you did before. I wouldn't mind a Shattered Glass too if it was just straight up Shattered Glass, but it's not what they did here. So what you have is a random smattering of Shattered Glass and a random smattering of G1, and neither one of them feels like they go together, and it just kind of feels like you're filling gaps. Like in this set, I can't really determine what the intention was. Like, is it to get a Shattered Glass Ultra Magnus out? Was it to make Overlord? I don't know. It's just I don't know what the set was really going for. So this is one where I was starting to go, God, I hope next year is better. And next year was arguable. This was the Machine Wars set. So we covered Machine Wars recently. They're not the most exciting toys. I liked seeing so many people come to their defense and going on, and I liked seeing the love for them because I like seeing the appreciation for toys that I do not appreciate. So I can kind of get that other side of the coin. Here, the Megaplex, I think, was a great call. I wish they resculpted the head. That would have actually made it really good. What bugged me here was working in Beast Machine's characters. And the idea behind Strika and Obsidian was they're using these, like, they're using characters that in Beast Machines were known to be generals from a long past age that had come back and pledged loyalty to Megatron. So they cast it here as Autobot versions of Strika and Obsidian during the Machine Wars, which apparently, I guess, were going on parallel to the Beast Wars. I think that's how they parsed it. It's not the greatest set because, again, they made Obsidian and Strika like the core characters for a Machine Wars set. And I understand the fiction backs it up, but it's still a weird presentation. And again, it's a nice little homage, but this is where you started getting into this era where they had leftover sets because just there weren't enough people buying the sets. They were producing in too many numbers for not enough interest. And while I've talked about Machine Wars, I talked about some love for it, it's generally an unpopular series because the toys were just so boring. So this was kind of doomed to fail. It didn't do terribly well. There was a ton left over after Botcon. You can easily buy this online from directly from uh, FunPub themselves. And I feel like, again, Machine Wars has enough toys. You could have made all of the characters, but they didn't. In fact, this set performed so badly, they canceled releases that they had planned to do of other Machine Wars characters. That gives you an idea where Botcon's ideas start falling apart a little bit more. Here's one that really bugged me. All right, so Pirates vs. Knights was one of the first instances of them double dipping on molds. Botcon to this point was really stringent about trying not to reuse molds, with a few exceptions. They eventually did Shattered Glass Thundercracker in the Action Master colors. That was just, that was supposed to be a release, but then they released it later on. The Seeker, I think, was the only one they really, didn't care how many times they reused it. They just kept remaking the classic Seeker. But they reused Classics Optimus here, and they patterned him as a Jinrai, even though he is done in the Fire Guts color scheme. So it's a way of using Classics Prime, but I don't think it's a great way of using it, if we're being honest here. This is another one where they started throwing in some random characters. I think Cannonball is great, but Cannonball's really the only one here that comes across as a pirate or a knight. Everyone else they had to recast in those roles, and Scorpenoc as a pirate just doesn't feel right, Like, he doesn't feel like a pirate character. Like, okay, so God, I can't remember the name offhand. Here, hang on. I'm gonna break the fourth wall a little bit. Give me a minute. Farrak. Okay, I can never remember because it's so minor. Farrak was like a background colored character from a comic book or something, and they just randomly pulled it from super obscurity to make a toy out of the Generation Cyclonus, or Universe 2 Cyclonus. And it's so forced. It's like, here's a character that's never had a toy before that we're finally going to release. Whoever asked for him? Whoever wanted one? I mean, DevCon's a good pick, because DevCon had a whole episode devoted to him in G1 and never got a toy. Scorpenoc, again, is a double dip. They did Double Punch earlier on, as in the Action Master. They really were proud of the fact that they retooled it to accept a G1 Headmaster, and they actually cast the original head with a new face plate on it. So it's a remold of the original Zarak head. It doesn't fit the mold. It just doesn't. It doesn't have the same level of tech greeble, so it looks weird and it's too big. So I'm just putting that out there. I know everyone loved that one. I wasn't a fan. I thought it could have been done better. This is just a super weak set for me. Like, okay, pirate versus knight, but you have no characters besides Cannonball that's established one or the other. You're just kind of making it up. You're making up the theme and making up who these characters are just so you have an excuse to use them. And that's just, it doesn't feel what Botcon should be. Botcon toys used to be about bringing those fan concepts and characters to life that you never got to see at retail, that you never would have expected any release for. When they came up with Cyclonus for one of the original exclusives out of Beast Machine's Jetstorm, it's to make you go, oh wow, that's what Cyclonus would be if he like survived and made it all the way to this point in the timeline. That was a great fan concept to bring to life. This is not. This is a fanfic. This is a fanfic that they made a toy set out of. Speaking of, Cybertron's Most Wanted is, again, a set that just feels like random characters thrown together. There is a... Okay, Pack Rat I think is good. You're homaging the original set there. I actually did have this set too. I actually bought it off of their website dirt cheap, and then promptly sold it off when I realized I don't want anything from this set. Pack Rat was at least an homage to the original, some of the original Botcon exclusives. That's good. Their version of Ricochet in orange, a random Shattered Glass toy thrown in. Again, Shattered Glass became kind of a space filler for these sets. No, I do think... I do think... oh god, why am I blanking on names today? I do think Battle Trap is a really clever idea. To recreate the Duocon from a triple changer, perfect. Very smart idea. Making a G1-ish movie Megatron, bad idea. I mean, it was their excuse of using the breakdown mold. That was the whole point, was to get the breakdown mold from Prime out to American audiences somehow. And that was a selling point. Hey, we have this mold you can never get. You can get it exclusively in this set. It's not a great idea though. It's just a random faceless Megatron. You're doing Botcon toys. And you're just making random Megatrons. I can go get a Megatron any day of the week at any store. Give me something different. They did. Okay, so they brought an old Pretender to life in the form of Oil Master. I give them credit for creating a whole new Pretender shell. That's a whole lot of molding they did for this set. Credit for that. But it is, again, them pulling something from such massive obscurity. I think 2 photos exist of Oil Master. Period. So to actually go, maybe we should put a ton of investment into making this character, I think was... Because you're already doing, like, Pretenders, which was not a popular concept, so why are collectors going to clamor around for a Pretender that was never released? Again, it just feels like they were trying to do something that no one really asked for, and they were trying to market it as a big deal when it wasn't. So this was a frustrating set for me. This is a frustrating set. Again, just kept making me go, I wish the next set would be better. The next set was the last. And, yeah, for me, this is the worst. So this is Dawn of the Predacus, which is based on their retelling of Beast Wars with vehicular characters. It's kind of Dawn of Futures Past, but it's not really. Not really. It's like some alternate universe where the timeline diverged and no one left Cybertron, so they're all still machines. So it's using the Predacus Council. That's what all the red figures are. Because in that one scene at the end, at the end of season 2, you saw the Predacus Council in that red, glowing red in that room. It's a lighting thing. They're not actually red. Right? They're not actually red. That's just because of the lighting in the room. You look at the behind-the-scenes stuff, they actually explained that they were going to do, like, just an overhead light, but it wasn't casting the right shadows and didn't really look good, so they decided, oh, we'll do, like, a little sign-in thing on the table. They'll turn a red light on that illuminates them from the bottom and shows everything better. So that was the idea. They aren't actually red. This is so stupid. This is so stupid. Just make them the colors they were. Make C-Clamp Cicada Con. Make Ramhorn. Just make them the colors they were in the toy, and people would respond better. And it would actually look better. I'm actually not a fan of, like... I think it would have been cooler if it was, like, standard Combiner where everything was a different color. And then you got Tarantulas, who's a spindly little spider that turns into a motorcycle most of the time. Here, he's an armored personnel carrier for some stupid reason. I love that mold, but it's such a stupid use for him. It's such a stupid mold for Tarantulas. And then you got the Ratchet, or the Ravage, with the flat head. that everyone made fun of. And they picked like the worst mold from Combiner Wars for it too. They didn't even pick a good car mold. Maybe it's a play on Battle Ravage from Alternators. Maybe. It's still so bad. It looks so bad. No, I hate this set. I hate this set. And to be fair, I will cut FunPub some credit here. This was partially Hasbro mandate. They wanted them to use recent toys so it blended into the current series on the toy shelves. Okay, fine. This still sucks. This still sucked. There's so many better things you could have done with this. Or at least maybe, you know, not wedge 2 more characters into Predacus. It kind of makes sense, but it kind of doesn't. And the color scheme is wrong. Like, and that's the final it. That's it. That's the end of Botcon sets going out on what I feel is like a massive whimper. It goes in waves, and then it hits that point after 2010 where it just starts going, or after Stunticon Job, where it just starts going down, 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 down. And you could see from how many leftovers they had every year, and the fire sale they had when they lost the license, where you still had exclusives dirt cheap and nobody was buying them. You had a ton of potential here, and just too many bad ideas. Too many bad ideas. Wow. I just looked at how long I've been ranting. I never mean to make videos this long anymore. I don't want anyone to sit through that long. Okay, so I apologize for being super long-winded. I thought this would be really short. But those are my thoughts on literally every Botcon set that has come out. Maybe at some point we'll explore them toy by toy. We might tier list that or something. But for now, thank you guys for watching. If you made it through this whole thing, thank you. But that just gives you my general idea on Botcon exclusives. Just so it's out in the universe, you know. Do with it what you will. I'm just here to talk, really. It's up to you to listen. And I thank you for doing it. Guys, I am facing the most powerful enemy any YouTuber can face, the algorithm, and I need your help to defeat him. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and leave a comment. Every time you do, we attack that algorithm and we drive it back until it can no longer defeat this channel. Thank you very much.